again. Make this bad boy really, really scary. The opponent's tapped out once again to play their Tyrant. Well, no need to change the formula. Opponent's gonna double block, lose both dragons to the indestructible Voice of the Blessed. That's unfortunate for them, as I am now a 9/9, and I Hello and welcome to the Florida Men Gaming. My name is Furion, and today we'll be playing Magic: The Gathering Arena. But before we get started, I would like to ask that you please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers and would love to have you along for the journey. If you're on Rumble, go ahead and hit that Rumble button. It shows your support and we would really love to have some of that. For today's deck, we're playing a Boros Angels deck that I have dubbed the Red Cross. And by me having dubbed that, I mean my wonderful wife, who is in fact a genius. So, this deck is built around one main strategy, and that is ramping up our Cleric's life gain with Angelfire Ignition and giving us a chance for some spell recursion and some sneaky play with fire with the Bloodthirsty Adversary. It's a pretty standard shell for Clerics with 4 copies of the Lunarch Veteran, 4 copies of the Angel of Unity, 4 copies of the Hallowed Priest, 4 copies of Voice of the Blessed, 3 copies of the Kor Celebrant, and 4 copies of the Righteous Valkyrie. Those cards will be our main life gain engines and building up cards. Voice of the Blessed, of course, having the ability to rapidly scale out of easy contention in terms of ways to deal with it. To support these cards, we're going to be running 3 copies of Play with Fire for some early game removal if we run into a fearsome whelp or dragons. 4 copies of the Valorous Stance to thwart Mono Black's targeted non-exile removal, and 4 copies of the Angelfire Ignition, which is an incredible sorcery spell, which if you haven't played it, it puts 2 +1/+1 counters on a target creature. They gain Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Haste. So it allows us to swing through, and with a lot of our creatures benefiting from those life gain triggers, it will allow us to maintain high health pools and continue to add counters to our 2 main damage sources. We're also running 4 copies of the Bloodthirsty Adversary, giving us a little bit of hasty early poke damage or spell recursion for some of our more critical spells like Play with Fire or the Valorous Stance later on, depending on how the game state is going. So with that, we're excited to play this one, and we will see you in the gameplay. Alright, this hand is ideal for our starting hand. Bloodthirsty Adversary will give us some spell recursion options later on. The Lunarch Veteran and the Voice of the Blessed will be able to kick off our life gain strategy right out the gate, pending any opponent burn. Let's go ahead and see if we can draw out some of those burn spells. Opponent is showing a Dragon's Avatar, and by Avatar I mean card sleeve. Imrith the Desert Doom could be an Is It Dragons build. And where's the Play with Fire? Alright, the opponent has elected to wait, waiting for juicier targets to hit the board. Faceless Haven, Orb of Dragonkind, they are tapped out. Lets me get into the Voice of the Blessed and get it down on the board and put it out of Play with Fire range. It is still, of course, in range of a single Dragon's Fire. So we're going to have to change that very quickly here. Opponent now down to 4 mana and a Townraiser Tyrant come into play. Let's go ahead and give ourselves a big swing. 5/5 haste, trample, indestructible vigilance, and lifelink. This is going to go up to a 6/6 and put itself in the air. Next turn we will play the Angelfire Ignition again. Make this bad boy really, really scary. The opponent's tapped out once again to play their Tyrant. Well, no need to change the formula. Opponent's going to double block, lose both dragons to the indestructible Voice of the Blessed. That's unfortunate for them, as I am now a 9-9, and I don't think they have anything big enough to knock it out. Goldspan coming down. You can swing in if you want, but I'm just going to take it. And this Bloodthirsty Adversary is going to come down in just a moment and put this game to bed. Let's go ahead and take the Goldspan off the board, and we will swing in. The opponent can't take it. They have elected to leave. That's game 1 in the books, folks, and we are continuing to progress through gold. Our next opponent steps to the board. This is a keepable hand. We'll go ahead and play it out. Hold on to that mountain on 1 and see what the opponent plays down. Maybe play with Fire Scry. Opponent going with the Lunarch Veteran. So they could be playing a life gain deck. We'll go ahead and take away their early engine. Valorous Stance, that's a good card. Go ahead and play the Adversary so we can get some hasty damage onto them and continue to maybe draw their attention away from our actual plan here. Another Lunarch Veteran coming down. That's what we want. Righteous Valkyrie to the board. And now, with the Hallowed Priests coming down in quick succession, we will have an excellent opportunity to start building up our board state. There's the Voice of the Blessed, so they're going to very quickly start scaling. Holding up now the Valorous Stance. Once that Voice of the Blessed starts to scale, we will be able to do some decent damage and knock it off the board before it hits indestructible. Skyclave Apparition coming down. Okay. Well, you take my toys, I take yours. It's nice while it lasted. Opponent showing many colors here. Let's see if they want to trade. Opponent letting the damage through. Do they have another Apparition? No, they have an Inquisitor Captain. This is an interesting deck, showing so far 4 colors. And the Sigardian Evangel. So they're going to use this opportunity to swing. Oh, and that is a pretty sight, folks. Voice of the Blessed is going to come down and give them more to think about. I'm going to go ahead and hold back the Adversary and offer up the trade for the Evangel. Continue to take damage off of their life total here. There's another Skyclave. Do they go for the Valkyrie or the Voice? Interesting choice. We'll go ahead and let this through. Nothing to be afraid of there. And we will hold. Opponent saying good game. Not sure what they could have as a bomb. Okay. Not quite sure that was the massive win condition they thought it was. We still have plenty that we can do here. Well, so far we've drawn just about every Hallowed Priest. And a Pyre of Heroes. So what are you sacrificing now? Intriguing. Do you have... well, Joffrey the Ghostforged. That makes sense. And suddenly this is looking more and more like a good game. We'll go ahead and chump this. Angel of Destiny, wow. Yep, when they say good game, they're not kidding. And with the land draw, we're going to go ahead, hit him with the GG, and we won't waste any more time. Next opponent steps up to the board. This is a intriguing hand, definitely keepable. We're going to go ahead and lead in with the white, drop the Lunarch Veteran, and start getting the Angel of Unity to be pumping up that Voice of the Blessed. Cursebound Witch, good lead in for the opponent. That's the second Voice of the Blessed to come down, so that is good to know. Opponent eyeballing the Veteran already, possibly looking at it eaten alive. Sacrifice the Cursebound Witch and exile the Lunarch. Jadar, the Ghoul Caller of Nephalia. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and pump the Hallowed Priest, as right now that might be our nearest option to start growing. Especially if we mana stall here and don't have the second white coming down for that Voice of the Blessed. There's the Infernal Grasp. That's unfortunate. Gonna go ahead and let the damage through. That Angel of Unity is good. I think for this turn we're just gonna have to take out the Jadar. It's not worth having him on the board and continuing to pump out 2/2 threats. Over the longer haul, it will be a better turn for us if we can get the Hallowed Priest down. And we'll take this 4 damage in the short term as our life gain is about to start spiraling. And they have another Jadar. Second red mana means we can start doing a little more with our turns here. Go ahead and play the Angel of Unity down, give us a little bit of life gain and the opportunity to potentially lifelink defend. Does the opponent have the removal? Electing to go Sanguine Brushstroke, that is going to be painful for us. But we'll be able to offset a lot of what comes in with the Angel of Unity. Alright, Hallowed Priest coming down as a 3/3, going to go up to a 5/5 by the time this turn is finished. Next turn we will utilize the Angelfire Ignition to put some hurt on from the air. Opponent dropping a land. Did they find something that they can use? And do they think that the Hallowed Priest is the biggest threat on the board? Oh, they're swinging in. Interesting that they're not going with the Cursebound Witch. You would think they would want to have that removed. Opponent's looking again at the Angel of Unity. Let's see if they've got the instant speed removal to dodge around the Angelfire. They've elected to let it happen. Our board is now starting to really spiral. Every time they attack, we're just gaining ground back. And we're continuing to build up the Hallowed Priest. One more white and we get those Voice of the Blessed back down to the board, and this game turns a whole nother corner. And there's the white we've been waiting for. Voice of the Blessed, come on down. And now they have more things to worry about. The Voice of the Blessed is only a handful of counters away from being scary. Go ahead and take that Eye Twitch off the board. Probably draw out a Necrotic Fumes if I had to guess. Putting us up now to 21 health and continuing to pump our larger creatures here. There's the Necrotic Fumes, but what is their target? I would assume it would be the Angel of Unity at this point. The Voice of the Blessed will go in the air next turn with Lifelink, Indestructible, Haste, Trample, and Vigilance. Angelfire, of course, being a glorious card, but if they knock the Voice of the Blessed off the board, that will be a huge mistake on their part. Right now, it looks like that's what they're trying to do. Of course, they don't realize we're sitting on another one. Necrotic Fumes, there goes the Angel of Unity. That makes sense for them. And another Cursebound Witch. Now, do they take this opportunity to swing? They don't. Okay. Let's go ahead and get airborne. And big damage. Still 1 mana away from being able to keep up Indestructible. But by next turn we'll be able to play down the next Voice of the Blessed and have the Valorous Stance ready to go. Opponent desperately trying to find some targeted removal would be my guess. Shambling Ghast, that's not going to be it. You can go ahead and have the 2 damage. I'm not going to give you free spells. Next Voice of the Blessed to the board. Does the opponent want to play it out? Going to go ahead and swing through once again unopposed. Opponent having no aerial blockers. Their Blood Artist, while being a scary threat in normal circumstances, is not going to have any chance to do anything to us here. Opponent might think they have it under control if they draw a targeted removal that does not exile, but Valorous Stance is now on hold, ready to save us for a future turn. Might make sense to sacrifice one of those Cursebound Witches. You might draw a solution that you've been looking for, but I doubt it at this point that you're going to have enough to come back from what's on the board. Opponent touching everything. We can touch everything too. We'll go ahead and let them take their ping. Opponent took the Lunarch Veteran off the board. Pretty good call on their part. Unfortunately, Valorous Stance does not protect against -1/-1 counters. Do they have the removal they need, though? Another Deadly Dispute. Opponent desperately digging. We've already seen an Infernal Grasp. The Necrotic Fumes was drawn off the sideboard. If they don't have it here, this is GG. And they'll have to double cast it, so they'd have to have 2 on hand to be able to protect against the Voice of the Blessed. I can only cast the Valorous Stance 1 time, so I can stop their first attack, but not their second. Wow. The opponent is desperately digging at this point. Do they find it on this one? They'd have to find not only a land, but they would have to find a removal spell on top of it, and they still don't know I'm holding up Indestructible. There's the land. Do they have the removal? Oh, Witch's Oven, that's not it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have defeated, potentially here, the mono-black sacrifice Sanguine Brushstroke deck. Food token you can't sacrifice without the mana. You need at least 2. They pull down another Witch's Oven. That's not going to be enough, though. They have nothing to stop me. Opponent just desperately playing it out. Doing every last thing that they can, but they're not going to get enough health on the board to put them in advantageous position here, and we're not going to block anything, so they can swing away. We're not giving them a satisfaction here. And they're gone. It was a valorous effort on their part, but it doesn't work out at the end. The next opponent has stepped to the plate, and this is a keepable hand. Go ahead and lead in with the red mana. Opponent with an Ashiok avatar and sleeve showing mono black from the start. Oh, Righteous Valkyrie is a glorious pickup. Go ahead and take a look at the top card of the deck. Angel of Unity, glorious. We'll go ahead and play down the main angel and see if they have the removal. This will bait it out for sure. Alright, opponent electing to swing in. Not going to give them the free card here. We're in no danger at this point. We're going to slow play this, keep the Valorous Stance up now that we have the ability to protect against any potential non-exile based removal spells. Sorin the Mirthless coming down. And they're going to swing in, of course, with that Eye Twitch. Maybe not. Well, since they're not going to swing, we're going to go ahead and just play down the Kor Celebrant. Move our life gain up and give us some big bodies. Let's go ahead and draw in the Defender. This will most likely draw out the Necrotic Fumes Exile effect. They went Environmental Sciences. That's interesting. I don't have the Indestructible up at the moment, so we are vulnerable for a turn. And we are now safely out of range of them knocking us down with their one hit. Environmental Sciences, they're going for the land drop. They already dropped a land though, so all they did was just refill their hand and add a little health to themselves. Alright, what did you draw? Nothing that you wanted to play. Interesting. And the hand gets better and better. Let's go ahead and get big. And let's see if they elect to defend the Sorin. 9 health, heading towards face. Putting us up to 39 total, so we're still in safe spot here. They could have blood on the snow though, and that would seriously derail us as I don't have the Valorous Stance ready to go. There's the blood on the snow. Should have known. Now we have to hope to draw into some of our creatures as we've drawn a lot of our spells. There's a Lunarch Veteran. Not necessarily what we wanted, but it will work. Continue to build our health pool up to where we don't have to worry about Soren's ultimate. Cursebound Witch coming down. And Turgid, the God of Fright. Well, we found a new reason to play Valorous Stance. And we get a second Valorous Stance to make it worth our while. Opponent creating another vampire. And a Fellstinger coming down, so there goes the Cursebound Witch. They do see that I have multiple Angelfires on deck. One more white land and I can cast the third one in hand and safely hold up the Valorous Stance for the following turn. There's a Lulth. Opponent going a mono black Super Friends build here, but I still, even with just a Lunarch on the board, have a pretty solid position to stand from. There's that white land we were waiting on. Alright, here comes the big veteran. We'll just go straight for the face. Trample Indestructible Lifelink, you can put just the Death Touch in front of it, you're going to take 3, and I'm not going to lose the veteran. Opponent allowing it to go all the way through. There's the removal we were waiting for. We're going to take Indestructible till the end of turn. Go ahead. Keep firing away and bringing down your health. Do you have Exile? Go ahead, Blood on the Snow. It's not going to stop me. I am indestructible. Or did we forget that? The Meat Hook Massacre. Okay. In my own arrogance, I put myself into a bad position. Except, again, my base health is 5. That doesn't seem to remove me. Not exactly how I want to play this deck, but we'll keep taking the free health. Of course, if they have removal on this turn, we are going to be vulnerable as we don't have another Valorous Stance ready to go. Opponent down to 3, we're back up to 40. We really need to start drawing some more of our creature spells. I will be able to go over the top here on the next turn if they elect to remove the veteran. I wonder if they see that. There's an Angel of Unity. We'll take it. Continuing to keep ourselves somewhat out of range of the opponent's ability to remove. Another flying vampire in our way. Biggest disadvantage of this matchup has been the fact that we haven't drawn into our stronger creatures. We've only had one real creature come up since our opening few turns here, and that was the Lunarch Veteran, which we then pounded home a few times. Opponent probably going to attack in it with at least the Turgid. And the next Angelfire. This is turning into a bonkers hand, folks. They're gonna have to block with something. We now have the ability to block and remove the Turgid. Do they have another Blood on the Snow? They have the Lantern. Go ahead, tip it on its side. We don't much care at this point. We have some scary trample in the air. That is not a great call on their part if they want to turn that on its side. Go ahead and let it through. They're probably trying some kind of sneaky bait. Let's see if they held on to an Infernal Grasp. They're going to have to block with something. Or everything. Opponent now down to 4 health, and we only had 2 potential blockers to worry about in the air. Did they draw the sweeper or the removal? That's not a great call. Oh, if you do it. That's just what we're hoping for. If they don't have a way to remove our creatures, we're just going to hit them with Play with Fire at the start of the next upkeep. We'll add the stop. 2/2 with lifelink. They think that they've got a block in place that'll help save them. We're going to let it happen. And an eye twitch. Give them the nice. Think that we are backs up against the wall here. We're not going to give them any creature deaths to fuel their potential Meat Hook Massacre triggers for health. And as they say on other streams, never didn't have it. That was a long one, and thank goodness for the early massive run-up with the Angelfires and our Angels, but that couldn't have played out better, drawing every Angelfire Ignition and playing just about every one of them at least twice, pounding home consistently and keeping the pressure up. Excited to see what happens in the next one. We have the next opponent. Jace Avatar could be a mill strategy or some kind of blue control. We're going to go ahead and keep this. A little leeryous of the low land count, but we can at least get a card down on one and see what happens as we draw into future cards here. Seagate off the top, and we are now in position with that third land coming down to play out at least to the Righteous Valkyrie, depending on what they elect to do with tapping down. Second white mana. We're going to go ahead and just take some free damage here and see if the opponent taps down mana on this coming turn. Interesting sleeve. Well, that was a complicated choice. I'm glad they finally made it. Unexpected conversion. All right. That lets us get the Valkyrie down unopposed this coming turn, fighting off, of course, potential bounce effects in following turns. They exile to divide by 0. Interesting choice. Go ahead and take our point of damage, start the life gain chain, and Voice the Blessed next turn will be a very scary card if they don't remove it. I'm expecting either Doomscar or Bounce. If we see a Foretell here, we will hold so we can play the Valorous Stance. Key to the Archive coming down, that is a license for a free swing. Let's see what they drew from the spellbook. Alright, Voice of the Blessed already starting to get big. Only a handful of turns away now from making this game potentially out of reach, but the opponent now sitting on a monstrous stack of mana. Alright, opponent using Key to the Archive, and here comes Teferi. Opponent untapping, still having 6 mana available, and a Teferi who's getting bigger. And a Divine Purge wiping the board. Go ahead and get the Celebrant down if they don't bounce it. Alright, well, that killed it. Discover the formula. Most busted card in Standard. And by Standard, I mean Alchemy. It is too bad Valorous Stance doesn't target Planeswalkers above 4 or more loyalty. Geist Channeler. Opponent continuing to just do Azorius things. Really love a red mana this turn. We'll take white. Just touch a few things, let the opponent wonder what we're up to. There's the divide. Go ahead and put the Teferi at least another turn or two away. You already spent the mana. Too late to regret that now. Oh, and a Jawari. Well, no need to play this one out, folks. We know how these games end. Alright, the next opponent has stepped up to the plate. This hand is playable. Gonna go ahead and change up our approach, get the red mana down first, so we have the option to play the adversary on too. Opponent also showing red. And no stick, so we could be facing off against the dragons here. Do we get the whelp? No, we get a Fireblade Charger. Let's go ahead and put down the Valkyrie. And we'll hold the attack. Wonder if this is an equipment-based fling deck. Could also just be standard goblins. Seize the spoils. Go ahead and take the damage, hold up the mana, and we'll be able to Valorous Stance this coming turn, which is good for us. Go ahead and let that through. Let them think they've got it. Go ahead. Take a quick peek and we will take the Hallowed Priest. Opponent now down to 10. They probably have a pretty spicy burn spell in their hand though. Quakebringer. That is unfortunate for our game plan. Fortunate or unfortunate though, we do have the ability to go over the top. Go ahead and kill the Quakebringer and continue to swing in for some damage. That is a good counter to a life gain strategy. And another one to the board, but we can continue to swing over the top. This is going to prohibit our life gain, but that doesn't much matter as we now have the bodies after this turn to swing in for victory. Do they have another board wipe available? Opponent is pondering. Shatterskull Charger, they're going to swing in for as much damage as they can manage, but at this point it doesn't much matter. We can still swing right over the top of them. Okay, you can have the 11. Oh, that's interesting. It's a lot of spells they just drew, but without the mana to play them. Looks like we're just going to have to take this victory home. It's definitely a valiant effort. Best they can do is play with fire to the face, but they just don't have it. Taking their time though to do the math. Goodbye, sweet mono red. And the opponent didn't want to wait. Well, there we go. Another one in the books. Alright, welcome back. We are glad to be here. This deck is a blast. Was a great showing today, went 4 and 2. Actually turned out really well against mono black. We're going to go ahead and pull the stats around here for you to take a look at. So stats again brought to you by the site untapped.gg. Mono black we went 2-0. Mono red we went 2-0. We lost to an Azorius Keys deck, and we lost to a 4-color shown Clerics deck, which was kind of interesting. This deck held its own. I know that I've talked about not wanting to play so much jank as I try and make my way to Mythic and really give it a good college try, as the older people tend to say. So this one, performing at 4 and 2, is exactly what we're hoping for. We're hoping that as we record content for the channel and try to climb to Mythic, we're not setting ourselves back. We also had a version 1 of the deck, which... This is it, never mind. There was a version previous that we played outside of Ranked that included 4 copies of the... it's the Red Curse. Curse of Hospitality. Really, really cool card, gives us that sneaky trample effect. But just elected to go for a lower mana curve, as we did drop lands down to 22, and try and rebuild our deck a little bit around that archetype, giving us the Bloodthirsty Adversary as some hasty damage, and relying on the Angelfire Ignition and our Flying Evasion to get us around opponents' defenses. Worked out very well for us. Azorius Keys is just a very hard deck to play against, and depending on the mirror, you can outplay Clerics, but Clerics have just as much opportunity to outplay you. So, at the end of the day, they beat us down, and there wasn't much we could do about it. So, it's a fun deck to play, definitely a recommended try if you have some of these cards already built. Valorous Stance, if you're playing white, is a definite must-play in my mind. And yeah, with that, this is Furion from the Florida Men Gaming. Excited to be on this journey, Mythic or bust, and we will see you in the next one.